There's a whole lot of uncertainty right now, and that extends to the Disney parks. We know a lot of you are rescheduling your trips or have a trip further out this year, and you're not sure whether or not you'll be able to go. So we're going to break down the possibilities today. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. Now we've been getting a lot of questions from you guys about your upcoming trips. When will Disney World reopen? What exactly does until further notice mean? When can we expect the parks to return to normal? Let's break down your top questions and what has to happen for Disney World to reopen. First up, what does closed until further notice really mean? Well, on March 27th, the U.S. Disney parks closed until further notice. A short and rather ambiguous statement relayed that the decisions are made in line with direction provided by health experts and government officials. The top question we've been getting lately is, will Disney reopen for my trip in April, May, etc.? Unfortunately, we're just not sure. There are a lot of factors at play, and a lot of things need to happen for it to be safe for the parks to reopen. While we don't have any official timelines from the parks, information provided within the Resort Operations Update section of the Disney World website indicates that reservations can only be made for dates June 1st and later. That includes advanced dining reservations, FastPass reservations, and hotel reservations. Now, this includes a caveat. As always, guests are able to modify these bookings if Walt Disney World Resort opens before or after that time. So in addition, all restaurants with the exception of 2 at the Four Seasons on property did not have reservations available until June 1st as well. Now, this doesn't mean that Disney World won't reopen until June 1st, but with the way things have been progressing, a 75-plus day closure of the parks could be a possibility. Also, large gatherings have been banned. Disney World is a global destination that's stereotypically known to be a germ haven. So reopening in the middle of things could essentially be opening a can of worms and endangering the safety of their guests. Roughly 57,148 people visit Magic Kingdom on any given day, and that's just one park. So, with widespread limits on public gatherings, and some countries and localities in the US even limiting groups to no more than 2 in public spaces, Disney parks will very likely not be one of the first locations approved to open again just because of the sheer numbers. There's a lot of procedures that will need to be put in place in order for Disney to ensure guest safety, not to mention the need to observe government orders from local counties that urge people to stay home. So Disney's putting a lot of eggs into that June 1st basket. We will see what happens. So what needs to happen for the parks to reopen? Well, first we need to flatten that curve. I'm sure you've heard this term 1,000 times by now, but it is what needs to happen. Now, at this time, we really don't know how long this may take and what other measures may need to be put in place in order to achieve that goal. Does the U.S. need to have 0 cases? Unlikely. A vaccine for this virus is likely many months in the future, and with suspected seasonality being more widely discussed, reaching 0 cases seems like a stretch. U.S. Disney parks will likely follow the lead of their international parks on a timeline for reopening, but that doesn't necessarily mean we'll be seeing the same 54-day closure of shopping areas like in Shanghai Disney. It all depends on the numbers and on our country. China had a high rate of cases, which was combated with very strict quarantine measures. The U.S. has already exceeded the number of confirmed cases in China, and there have been no widespread stay-at-home mandates or travel restrictions at this time. Things are left up to state and city governments right now. Reactionary policies have been slower to take in the U.S., meaning a longer closure of all things familiar may be possible. And remember that Shanghai Disney waited to reopen Disneytown until the country reported only 40 new cases in a single day. The U.S. overall needs to flatten the curve before we'll begin to see reopenings and loosened restrictions. If cases and death rates continue to rise, we won't see the parks open very soon. Unfortunately, we haven't seen the worst of things in the U.S. yet. All right, so after the numbers do come down, Orange and Osceola counties will need to lift their stay-at-home requirements or work out a deal with Disney to begin operating in a way that abides by health considerations. Originally, Disney was not included in the large local gatherings that were banned in California, and Disneyland actually closed before they were officially asked to in an abundance of caution. So state of emergency shouldn't have an effect on the parks being open. These are declared during hurricanes as well in order for states to receive government assistance, but a stay-at-home or shelter-in-place mandate will need to be lifted. And some travel restrictions may also need to be lifted in order for the parks to open. Florida currently has a self-quarantine mandate for people from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Louisiana. So if these bans are lifted before the parks open, it may be a sign that the state is trending towards more stability. Before thousands of people would be allowed to gather in a Disney park, we would expect smaller-scale gatherings such as schools, gyms, and restaurants to start to resume normal operations first. Now, we're also going to have to see Disney bring back a lot of their cast members. Staffing may be a problem with budgets slashing across the board. Furloughs are happening. So in order for us to get the same Disney service we're used to at restaurants, hotels, and in the parks, how long will it take to bring all those furloughed cast members back and retrain everybody? So Disney's going to be tasked with planning a window of time to hire new or reinstate cast members, retrain them with whatever policies or procedures they need to relearn in order to reopen a park in the midst of a global crisis like this. After all, Disney may decide to open with limited capacity or run the attractions a little bit differently in order for people to socially distance. So there's probably some training that will need to be done of the cast members when they come back. And remember that Disney College program was also dramatically cut short. This program accounts for nearly 12,000 positions per year. These are positions that will need to be filled by returning or new college program participants when the standard semester dates potentially shifted due to the closures. So little information has been released pertaining to the cultural reps now that the closure has been extended indefinitely, so we aren't sure if these cast members will be allowed to stay put in the US or if they will have to return to their home countries. So will we see a full staff of cultural representatives around the World Showcase when Epcot reopens? There's a lot staff-wise and cast member-wise that Disney's going to have to do before the parks reopen. Something that really could have an effect on the parks reopening are supply chain issues. So Disney World has to supply a lot of things for a lot of people, and with some factories shut down or operating with limited staff, it may be harder to get simple necessities like toilet paper for some time. As Florida and California residents start to return to normal life, it may take some time for orders of raw materials, foods, and processed items to catch up enough for a theme park to run smoothly. Now, here's an interesting example. After Hurricane Dorian last year, the Plaza Ice Cream Parlor in Disney World operated with limited flavors for a day due to supply trucks not replenishing their supply in time. Now, that was for a relatively small one-day closure, not a weeks-long or months-long event like we're facing now. So it's hard to imagine having to essentially restock an entire theme park with food, merchandise, and supplies in order to reopen. So that's going to take some effort, but that does have to happen before the park reopens. Now, Disney also has to figure out what their new normal is. Once the parks are allowed to reopen and the staff is back in action, Disney World will need to have procedures in place to accommodate social distancing, add additional sanitation measures, anything else that is going to protect the cast and the guests' safety. So now these are not confirmed, they are our assumptions and our guesses, but we're thinking that things will likely reopen in phases. We haven't seen a single Disney park reopen yet, so we don't know what it means for how exactly the parks will reopen, but we see dramatically reduced hours. Will typically long summer hours look more like mid-January with 8 p.m. closings or potentially even earlier. We've got another video on the channel exploring what this new normal might look like. We may see land capacity reduced or lots more virtual queues, but most definitely sanitation standards will be very high throughout the parks. Now in Shanghai, we did see Disneytown and hotels open up before the parks have opened up yet, so that may be the tack that Disney takes here as well. Now, what's the responsible decision? Disney's going to be searching for that as well. Disney wants to be responsible, but they're also losing a lot of money. So they have a lot to lose if they open too early, but they also have a lot to lose if they wait too long. Now, Disney hasn't released an official statement on how they plan to reopen the parks, but we imagine they'll be crunching the numbers to find out the perfect time to jump back into action. Now, the big question we're all asking, should we cancel our trips? For a lot of you, we know everything comes down to that question. Ultimately, the decision is up to you and is dependent on your traveling party. For guests with stays booked through June 30th, Disney is waiving cancellation and rescheduling fees should you want to change your trip. Don't forget they've also introduced a free dining package for those people who have bookings right now between March 16th and May 31st. You can reschedule your trip and use a free dining package to reschedule at any time between June 1st and September 30th. And we're also seeing a few more discounts popping up for summer travel dates. So right now, if you're on the fence about canceling, hold tight to see if things take shape. If you have a second choice of dates for your trip for later in the year, rescheduling can bring some added benefits. Like I said, you could get that free Disney dining plan if you rebook within those summer dates. And by rebooking, you could also benefit just in case these closure dates do get pushed out past June 1st. Now, remember, Disney is not currently taking any reservations before June 1st. Everything you can book right now at Disney World is June 1st and after and later. So if you have an earlier trip booked, I would say just keep an eye on some of these things that we've mentioned in this video today, the things that would have to happen in order for Disney to reopen. The curve has to be flattened. The number of cases can't keep going up. The number of deaths can't keep going up. Disney's going to have to figure out how to bring their cast members back. And those stay-at-home mandates will probably have to be lifted in the Walt Disney World counties. So those are some indicators that you can keep an eye on to see if it makes sense to cancel or reschedule or keep your current Disney trip that's on the books. Now, until further notice is not really what we wanted to hear because it reminds us of just how uncertain things are right now. We know the lack of concrete dates can be frustrating, and many of you are wondering what's the best course of action. We want you to feel in control of your vacation and up to date on all the latest news, so we're going to continue to keep you posted each and every day over at DisneyFoodblog.com with those updates as soon as they're released, and we're going to continue to provide you with new videos to help you plan and prepare. We're here to help even through this difficult time. So thank you guys for sending us your questions. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to help you and to give you whatever answers we're able to get for you. I hope this has been helpful for some of you. We are thinking of you, wishing you all the best. A lot of us are in the same boat where we've got, trips booked and we're having to reschedule. So hopefully this has been a little bit helpful, giving you some concrete things that would need to happen before those parks reopen to help guide you in your decisions. Thanks for listening, you guys, and thanks for watching. This is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.